So several years ago, I was out at a local restaurant, and one of the people in the group, I can't call him a friend, he was more of an acquaintance of mine, but they had known him for years. He had recently had a kid with a woman that had dumped him right when she got pregnant. And during this time, he's younger, he was around 27. And he was really unsure because this was a new experience for him having a kid. One of the people who was there with us had gone through the whole divorce thing, custody battle thing, had 3 kids before, and is warning him that he needs to get a paternity test because this woman is going to go after him for child support. And in his mind, for some reason, he did not want to believe it. He was even defending the woman, keep in mind the woman who dumped him right when she got pregnant, talking back to my friend who was trying to be a good friend and warn him and help him, really. He didn't want to listen. He gets up, gets angry, and leaves the restaurant because of that. Now, several years later, he's an electrician. He's making good money for himself. And she did indeed go after him for child support. He was making, I think, around $180,000 a year working overtime. And they increased the child support payment to $2,700 a month. Yes, you heard that right. $2,700 a month he is paying in child support. So he wants to lower the amount of days that he's working because the rate went up, and the way it works is they match it with your income. So as it goes up, the child support payment goes up. And he wanted to lower the amount of days he works. But the child support payment did not go down. It can only go up. So just for perspective, if someone's working a $20 an hour job and they go up to $40 an hour, if they do owe child support, it will go up. But if they go from a $40 an hour job to back to 20, or they quit a $40 an hour job and get a $20 an hour job, that rate does not go down. It can only go up. It can never go down. Now, in any sense, does that sound right to you? Does that make any logical sense to you? Because it doesn't to me. You have a lot of men who are in this trap, and even with this whole child support money, so-called, most of the time I've seen it just goes towards the woman's selfish, materialistic wants. They have the latest designer bag, a new car, the latest phone, and then they'll try to convince people that they're just doing it for them, that they don't care. Yeah, just like wearing makeup, just like what you wear going out on a Saturday night is just for you, right? No one believes it. No one believes it at all. And sadly, he didn't want to take my friend's advice to get the paternity test, to get the DNA test right when the kid was born. He finds out several years later that it is not his kid, which figures she dumped him right when she got pregnant, which usually the whole monkey branching thing means that she was probably talking to another guy during that time. Even I remember when the kid was born, he was saying that there was another guy there in the room that she had the kid. The whole thing is ridiculous. But that's the problem. You have a lot of men who are naive to this, and again, why it's so important to have information like this out there, that think that it could never happen to me, that it could never happen to them. They found the perfect princess. And here's the problem with that. I'll be respectful. I'll hold doors. Of course, if I don't know someone, say please, say thank you. I'll be respectful. But if a woman's shown that she is not respectable, she does not get princess treatment. You do not defend women like this. You do not go out and buy meals and play these games and be the court jester. You don't do that. And you have way too many men now who are going to not only get with women like this, but are going to overlook red flags. They're going to overlook their past. They're going to think that it can't happen to them, that they found the one, or that they're somehow immune to this kind of stuff. That's the problem. What is that saying? It goes, bad company corrupts good characters. I wouldn't want negative friends in my circle. I surely would not want a woman like that in my circle, because even worse, once you're married and had kids, then you're really on the hook. You can't just leave and go your own way, because they're going to go after you with stuff like this, which is so ridiculous. So after he finds out that the kid isn't his, he indeed finds out it was not his son, the courts make him keep paying. He does not get any of the money back, by the way. They say because it is the best interest of the child that he has to keep paying, is because he paid for a certain amount of years. I think it was several years that he's been paying this. So they didn't want to go back on it. I'm not saying people are not redeemable, but he feels like he's finished. He's thrown his life away, which is sad because he's still a young man, and seeing him be in this position. But my thing is this, regardless of how you feel about paternity tests, because I see a lot of women who will get mad when you talk about things like necessary paternity test. And that's the problem. That really goes to show that you can't be trusted. If you're going to get mad about things like prenups, which even those I heard you need to be careful about. I was talking to a gentleman in Colorado, and he was telling me about his divorce situation, custody battle situation in the past, that with these prenups, you have to be very careful with them. You have to, quite frankly, know what you're doing when you look at stuff like that, or have someone you can trust overlooking it with you. Because even with those, there are loopholes. My point being is if a woman has a problem with something like that, whether it's a prenup, whether it's a paternity test, that really goes to show their true colors. And regardless of how you feel about paternity tests being mandatory, child support should be unenforceable without it. End of discussion. That is I will not, I personally think that is just, I don't see any convincing argument otherwise. It should certainly be mandatory. If you're going to have a man working now for years, paying child support on a kid, some of the time the kid not even being theirs, yes, it should be mandatory. Another problem I have is you have women who will do stuff like this, whether the kid is the father's or not. They're so selfish that they do not care about the child's well-being, that this kid is now going to grow up without their biological father in the home. Because they are so vengeful and so spiteful to get what they want and don't want to see the man happy. How can someone be such a selfish person, such a coward, that you now don't put your child first? Put your child above your own ego, first of all. You have so many kids who are growing up without their biological fathers who, most of the time that I've seen, are good men. These are not deadbeats. These are good men who would love to be in their kids' lives. They're paying child support. They're working for that kid. If they were such deadbeats, they wouldn't be doing that in the first place. That's something I think a lot of people don't understand. Of course, I'm not saying abusive men don't exist. But most of the time that I've seen, I've known several people over the years who have gone through divorce, custody battles, child support. These are good men. Which, again, I want to get into something because someone sent me a really interesting quote from Matthew McConaughey, and it was on a podcast. It was, a good man is not a nice man, right? Where you're not going to just allow women like that into your life. You're not going to allow women who go to these nightclubs and have all these red flags. You're not going to just overlook stuff like that and let a woman like that into your life and corrupt you. You're not going to do it. Because I've seen that happen way too many times. And even these things I see where men just have no self-respect. Like I'll see those videos mostly on social media, which I don't ever really use. Videos of a woman and then several men lining up to try to earn that woman's love or her attention. Like it's a job interview or something. It's like, have some self-respect. First of all, that woman's on the internet. So quite frankly, she's not loyal. She's dependent on other people's attention and validation. What are you doing being the court jester for a woman like that? They've already shown their true colors. Again, that's really the problem here is you have way too many men who are overlooking red flags, who are, in some cases, they know the true color. They know how the women are. But they're so desperate to get with a woman because they've been convinced by all their fake friends that they're not some alpha male if they're single. I mean, again, that thing is so ridiculous because you have men who are getting with women and getting their lives ruined by women just for ego, just because they care about what other people think, when they would have their own peace and solitude if they were single, if they were not with a woman like that. I've said it before, I would rather be celibate for the rest of my life than be with a woman like this. Because I have self-respect. And it even goes beyond that. Because you never know what that woman could do, what that woman could say, false allegations. And I want to make a point of this too. Like this example of my friend who or rather acquaintance, who got caught up with this woman in child support and kid who wasn't his child. If a woman is caught deliberately falsifying reports for protection orders, no contact orders, knowing that the father, rather the kid has a different father, they should face jail time. They'll get all the attention and validation they want in there. They won't even have to go to the nightclubs anymore, because you are trying to ruin a man's life for your own selfishness. But every time I've seen, it's just a slap on the wrist. A slap on the wrist. Don't do this again. And for the man, oh, stay out of trouble. Don't acknowledge the fact that you just wasted thousands upon thousands of dollars. And quite frankly, more than the money, the emotional damage, the time that you can't get back, the time away from friends and family, the time away from work that you can't get back, the time away from the gym and things you should be focusing on because you were in and out of court for a long period of time. They don't want to talk about that. That's the real problem in all this. So don't be naive to this kind of stuff. A man should not have to take care of a child who isn't his. He should not, especially in a situation like this where he does not even know that. He had no idea that the child was not his until several years later. Does not get that money back. I mean, could you imagine all the things you could do with $2,700 a month? Now, I live in an expensive city. Quite frankly, that's barely even enough to pay rent for an apartment here. But there are several places that I'm aware of where that'll get you pretty far. That'll get you pretty far. I mean, this woman was working a job. She had a man there to replace him. Who knows what she spent that money on? Designer handbags, all different kinds of stuff. But that's another thing I'll say too. This whole thing with women wanting to act like things are only for them and not for other people. Meanwhile, you have to have a $2,000 Chanel bag in public because you're doing it for yourself. You want to say that you like the design or something like that. Nobody believes it. I mean, come on. Nobody believes it. And there's been several times too where I would go to these areas and just as I'm out and about, I used to do food delivery and stuff like that. And I would go to apartments of families and stuff like that. And I would see new high-end BMWs, Mercedes, Porsche, Corvettes in the driveway. See women that would come out and get the food. They have the latest iPhone. They have one kid with them in one arm. No man in the household. Yet the food that they're getting for them is definitely not where the money's going. It's just gotten ridiculous. Now, this is one of the most depraved things that I've ever heard of, quite frankly. That there are some women who will go as far as deliberately wanting to have kids so they can live for free, so they can live off child support money. So they're willing to, they don't care about the well-being of the child. They don't care about this child growing up without a father in the home, whether he's going to go and do something with himself or he or she is rather going to go and do something with themselves. They don't care about that. There's something seriously wrong with them. Seriously wrong with them. If that's the way they operate and want to make a living, so-called. Doesn't make any sense. But this is why it's important to have self-respect, to have standards, to not just get involved with random women who you barely know. And I've even heard that there are some that are better at hiding it than others. But besides the point, paternity tests in situations like this where child support is involved should be mandatory. They should be mandatory. And if the kid isn't yours, you shouldn't have to pay it. Even I knew someone who was, he was doing things he shouldn't have been doing, but got caught up with a woman who had a kid and thought that he was the father. He gets a thing in the mail, takes a test, the kid isn't his, right? And there was several other men on that list. They didn't even find out who the father was. That's how many guys this woman had been with in that period of time. I mean, why would you want to do anything with a woman like that? That's again why I'm so against the casual this and that. You have women who will actively talk about things in their personal life thinking it's cute, which it's not. There's no exclusivity or high value there. When they talk about a one night stand in the room, they're not talking about the one that they hide their books on. That's not what they're talking about. So it's just gotten to the point where we have to protect our peace, we have to protect our solitude, and we have to also protect the people around us. Like if you know someone going through this, or you see someone who is getting with a woman that has all these red flags, or you've been through it yourself or know someone who's been through it, share it. Because there's a lot of men who are naive to this kind of stuff. They're naive to divorce. They're naive to custody battles. They're naive to child support. And of course, it's a personal thing. Of course, it's not easy to share and talk about and be vulnerable about. But I can't just sit back and see so many people deal with the same thing. It's hard enough to watch seeing it once. I know way too many people who have dealt with it themselves. So, as always, guys, I appreciate you viewing the video. Hope you guys have a good one. Thank you so much.